Hi everyone, you're watching the virtual Amicus and I'm Jay Lodha. So today's topic is very interesting and in fact by far the most important topic that we've discussed on the virtual Amicus so far because it concerns or caters to not only a particular legal proposition, legal issue, it pertains to mental well-being and the pursuit of happiness. So today's topic for discussion would be on well-being in the legal profession and the pursuit of happiness. So we've kept it in a Q&A format where we'll be discussing with our amicus about the importance of mental well-being, how important it is, what are these signs of stress, what are these signs of mental burnout, how does one address all of these issues at his or her workplace, and how does one sustain in this legal profession of ours in the longer run when burnout rates are really very high and so are the attrition rates. So today we are joined by a very special speaker. The amicus for today's session is not only a legal practitioner, but also an internationally certified happiness coach by the Berkeley University, California. So today we are joined by Mrs. Rajni Singh. And just to give you all a brief introduction about our amicus for today's session, she passed out law from the Government Law College back in 2012. She's currently working and not just as a legal practitioner, but also is a certified internationally certified happiness coach, which is by the very prestigious university, Berkeley University at California. And today she joins us. She took out time on a weekend, and she'll be discussing well-being in the legal profession and the pursuit of happiness. So thank you so much, ma'am, for taking out time. Sorry we spoiled your weekend plans. You could have done so much on a weekend, but
Not at all.
you chose this
Thank you so
platform.
much for having me, Jay. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for doing this for our fraternity. Thank you.
Very well. Anything that you wish to say before we start with our Q&A segment as opening remark?
Yeah, I mean, I would just, sorry, go ahead.
Anything that you wish to say as opening remarks before we start with this segment?
Yes, sure. First of all, thank you for approaching me. And I think this is a fantastic platform for so many young lawyers. And as one of your earlier speakers, Amicus, said that we didn't have this kind of platform when we were younger. And I'm really, really glad to be here speaking about something which is very close to my heart. And I think it makes the single most important impact in all our lives. We can read all the books, we can be the best in our profession, but if you're not doing well overall, uh, I last year has shown us how none of those things matter, and how it's time to sort of really keep our well-being as number one priority.
Absolutely. I mean, that is so true. And this is not just last year, but perhaps the entire century has shown this that even, not just the books that we are hooked to are important. What matters and what ultimately counts is mental health, which is unfortunately, which always takes the back seat in our lives. So I think we should quickly start with our Q&A segment. So, ma'am, question number one. What do you think? Uh, why do you think speaking about well-being in our profession is so important today?
Yeah, so before I start, I would just like to clarify I'm not a certified counselor or a psychologist. This is going to be a very friendly sort of a session where I could just point out certain things which I've learned, not only in my journey as becoming a happiness coach, but also in my personal experience, which is going to be a decade-long practice of law. So just to answer your question, I've had the privilege of working both sides, litigation as well as transactions, in a law firm as well as in-house. And what I've observed is the tremendous pressure that all of us go through, not just in our day-to-day readings, because we have a lot of readings, legal readings to do, research and work, but also the kind of pressure for a result, and pressure which is time bound, pressure which can be high value to represent our client, as well as if on an everyday dispute resolution, on an everyday negotiation. So it's a really sort of high pressure, I would say, work. And in law firms, on an average, all of us have worked around 14 to 18 hours, and which is something which allows us rest time of very, very few hours. So that's why I feel it is so important to understand whatever the little time we get, and whatever the little things that we steps that we can take at our side in order to have a long career. Because many of our senior counsels, in the Bombay High Court who I've interacted with, they've mentioned that the most important thing about our profession is to have a long one, because by the time we are a decade into the profession, we're just about understanding our subject. So we have a long way to go, and therefore longevity matters a lot in our profession. And if we are able to take care of ourselves overall, not just professionally, I think we will have a better success. It depends on how you define success also, right? So it's about a very, very holistic approach to our profession. That's why I feel it's so important to learn more about this subject.
Absolutely. And I think to add to that, unfortunately, legal profession, we talk about higher levels of mental health issues and lower levels of well-being as compared to the general population, which is so very unfortunate. And that is what these statistics suggest. And also, I think mental health and well-being in this profession, and not just in why not in the legal profession, but even other professions for that matter, is an issue of critical importance, because such pressures and stresses
Definitely.
associated with our profession and
Definitely.
with the work that we're associated with can have a major negative impact on not just our mental health but also our well-being. So that is why it is so important, these hobbies that you referred to. So now coming,
Absolutely.
yeah, so coming to question number two, and moving forward, so ma'am, what are the signs of stress and burnout? How does one identify, all right, these are the signs of stress, these are
Sure.
the anxiety issues, or this is what has led me to the burnout?
Sure. Sure. So Jay, there are multiple things. For everybody is different, right? Everybody's response to stress, capacity to take stress, it's very different. But a certain, broader, signs which you can look out for is, palpitation. When you have your heart rate constantly, really, high heart rate, and then you have, loss of appetite. That is something very, very major which I've seen across. I've discussed this with my colleagues, with my friends. And when there is a matter, there's a critical matter, they don't feel the need to eat. So this is all, so these are the two signs. And then when you're not able to concentrate well, this is one of the important signs of burnout. When you have done a lot of in terms of professional work, and suddenly you're given something to read, and you are able to sort of, if you ask yourself, you're able to understand that, I'm not able to take out the best out of this literature. I'm not able to understand, it's not registering. You understand the signs of fatigue if you just listen to your body, right? So your appetite changes, and it could also be a lot of appetite. I mean, there are people who stress eat. So there are many friends and colleagues who have associated a lot of eating because of stress, because they don't, not mindful eating. So your appetite, your palpitations, insomnia. Insomnia is another big one. If you're not able to sleep for days, if you're just not able to sort of rest your brain, if you're always feeling hyper, right? So these are the some of the signs which I feel you must sort of understand. Addressing is step two. First is realization, right? So go ahead and realize it, and it's valid. All of these signs, I just would like to say to all my friends who are watching this, all of these signs are valid. And don't let anybody tell you that, you're in the first year of practice, it's too early, you're not going to get stressed and burn out in your first year. You're in your second year of practice, it's too early, you're not going to. Don't listen to all of these things. Listen to your body and just sort of recognize it first. I think that's broadly and what I would say. And I'm sure there are professionals who will guide with, like, bigger signs. And you can read. There's a lot of literature available, good literature. Please read about it. And also, you can speak to your close family and close friends about this.
I think where the moment your body shows signs of these symptoms, it is so important to take counseling at some point, to seek formal counseling from a professional counselor, and even speaking to colleagues for that matter, and even speaking to your boss. And so I think moving forward now to our next question, and coming to what I mentioned. what can one do to address this at a workplace? Now, suppose if there's an associate or an employee or an advocate who's facing all of this, what does he do?
Sure, sure. I think that's a very critical question because, as young lawyers, um, we face with this, we feel that we have to be this personality, whether it's a television personality who has been a brilliant lawyer, or we read about these legal luminaries and we feel that we have to fit that role, fit that box, be this person, the strong, someone who cannot be is touched by these mental issues. We are this strong, man or woman of iron, and we can go ahead and we can fight. We uh, we feel the pressure to fit this box. But I would like to urge that, all our younger friends, or even not just younger, any age, I think all of us have a unique voice. First of all, I think being confident is very important. Be confident, okay? And if you're facing something, trust me, even by experience, I've had law firms who have understood this issue. So try to speak to your reporting manager, speak to your partner, speak to your legal head, whoever it is. Explain to them what you're facing, explain to them that how you can go ahead with that. Seek guidance. Your parents, your elder sibling, or your very close friend. But it's important to speak it out, because many a times I see that, in our pursuit to fit that box of a corporate lawyer or a litigator, we feel that it's weakness to sort of go ahead and tell someone that I'm suffering, or I'm going through certain things. So I would say that first, have a little bit, be secure, be confident, and speak about it. It does not make you any less of a good lawyer, right? I mean, it's something that, in fact, you take this as a journey towards becoming a better lawyer. Because if you can first handle your own issues, you can then focus better on your profession and the longevity that it requires. And I feel that you need to, once you're recognized, step one is recognition. Yes, I'm facing this. Before any kind of negotiation call, I'm having a palpitation before any kind of, and this is not the normal nervousness that you get before going to a stage. This is a palpitation which does not allow you to do anything, does not allow you to function to your 100%. This is that kind of palpitation, does not allow you to have nutritious diet. It's that kind of appetite loss. And of course, better guidance can be given by a professional, but you must first recognize. Step two, speak out. Speak out to anyone senior to you. And trust me, I mean, maybe I have faced good people, but there are people who understand this.
Exactly. And there's also a proverb, an old proverb, which health is
Yeah.
wealth. And that is, I think most of us, we don't understand the importance of this, that only a healthy body can have a healthy mind. And if you have a healthy
100%.
mind, then there'll be a lot of productivity in terms of, when you talk about the effort that you put in terms of the productivity that you see in your life, you will see major
Yes.
breakthroughs. But for that, you really have to put in a lot of effort. When you talk about fitness, when you talk about exercise, you need to have hobbies to pursue. That is something that is not
Right.
just meant for weekends. I think ultimately life is all about
Yes.
fulfilling your desires and doing what you're passionate about. And if that takes a backseat, that is where your health takes a toss. So
100%.
yeah.
Yeah, as you mentioned, I would just like to add one point, like how physical well-being is impacts the mental well-being. There's also like a reverse chain. The mental well-being also impacts the physical well-being, because if you're not nourishing, if you're not eating well because of stress, it has a direct physical impact on your physical health and well-being, right? So we have to give. I think we have come into times, and there is enough awareness that we have to give both of these things enough sort of importance, and let us please focus on this so that we're able to be better professionals.
Nice. So at this juncture, I wish to share my own personal journey. So quite recently, I think this was during the first wave of COVID-19, when we had a lot of free time and there was a lockdown that had been imposed. I had enrolled myself with an app, and there was a trainer, and the whole philosophy was to go for a meal that was quantified. And So we would basically weigh what we eat. So we had a kitchen weighing scale, and I could actually feel the difference in terms of the productivity that I could see, in terms of the results that were enormous, not just in terms of weight loss, but also everything for that matter. The thinking caps opened up, and it's also about
Yeah.
nutrition. It's also about a healthy diet. It's also about
Yes.
physical workouts that are so
100%.
important, that takes a backseat. And especially when you have a long hour working schedule, that definitely takes a toll on your health. So all this has to be addressed too. You just
100%.
can't ignore all of this. And
So
la-
true.
yeah. Lastly, how can one sustain this profession, in this profession of ours, in the longer run, where burnout rates are really very high and so are attrition rates?
Yeah, so this is a very interesting question, actually, Jay. What I've noticed is, because of this stress, which is, or anxiety, which is not being addressed timely, uh, many of our younger friends, I think a lot of my classmates or, my batchmates have actually left the profession because they don't feel that, it's very stressful. It's causing them this unknowing stress, and they don't want to do this profession. So what I would like to urge is, uh, treat it as cough and cold, right? We have worked very hard to get our law degrees, right? I mean, there has been a dream to become this lawyer, but just because we are facing little bumps which we are not addressing, which is why it's becoming a larger bump, which is why we feel that we don't have interest in this profession, but which may not be the case. I'm not saying it will be 100% the case, but it may not be the case. It may not be the profession. It may be the way we are approaching it, right? And if we address our well-being correctly, and by personal experience, I would say that I did face something similar, and I felt that I was done with this profession. But then, little bit of break, little bit of awareness, little bit of working on myself, I could just bring back the joy for which I had actually become a lawyer. And I would like to say that I really thank God that I did not sort of take that bump very seriously, and I sort of addressed it at the correct time. So it's more about awareness, and I think it's more about, addressing it. And it all boils down to your confidence, because all of this works towards making you a better professional. So if you can address something like any other illness, any other bump in your professional journey, I think that would be fantastic. And a few tricks that have helped me, which I could, point out, Ajay, as I was speaking to you. um, a life changing trick is, I know it's very tough, but not checking your phone when you wake up. A life changing trick, and it is not just for our profession, it goes across profession. And just the heart rate management, the sudden immense load of emails or immense load of feedback from your boss, not giving it the not letting that enter your life for the first half an hour of your life. Just doing that will give you a lot of will make you a very calm, much calmer approach towards the day. Take each day at a time. Do not check your mails in the morning. When you have a critical court matter, when you have a critical negotiation and you feel a little bit nervous, which is very, very normal. I think even the best performers feel nervous. If there's a nervousness, take a 30-second very deep breath from your stomach, and that really helps. That really, really helps, right? So take that. Don't take yourself too seriously. Just relax. Your profession is a part of your life and not the life itself. There is just so much that life has to offer. And not just from the Jay, we were speaking, not just from various your CEOs, best of the CEOs, best of the legal counsels, senior counsels. You would learn from them that one of the things that they do is they prioritize your well-being, and it is so important to have interests which are beyond law. And I am a big champion for reading. I would say that the biggest asset that we have, our generation has the ability to read English. And if we can only read, I think there's a lot of There's a lot of calmness that it can give you. There's a lot of knowledge, of course, but more than anything, it is critical for anxiety management. If you get into a fiction book, non-fiction book, whatever you feel like, sports is your is your passion, read an autobiography of a sportsman. If music is your passion, read something related to Beatles or someone else, their life. But I would say that for anxiety management or any kind of mental well-being, or overall well-being management, just get a hobby, not just for your resume or for your in school we all had these hobbies, but we sort of, it's so unfortunate that we grow up, we don't have to grow up so much. I mean, leave the child in you alive, leave it alive, and just see how, what a positive impact it has on your professional life, just to sort of feed that child with the interest. If you like baking, if you like cooking, do all of those things. Please find time for those things, and you will see a tremendous growth, tremendous confidence as a professional. And all your interest in your profession, which you feel was fading away, will come back. And Jay and I, we spoke at length about our interest in musical instruments, which again we had forgotten initially, but thanks to COVID and thanks to the kind of stress that our profession also faced last year, I think having a musical instrument to play, it really helps calm your brains. It really your nerve cells, and it really sort of gives you the kind of breather that you need in your everyday daily life, even if it's a 20-minute breather. And these are some of the examples of the things that you can do. Whatever you enjoy doing, you want to take your dog for a walk, just do that, but do something beyond the profession, and it will circle back in great ways and impact your profession in a positive way. Jay, would you like to tell everyone about your your musical journey last year?
Of course, and before I begin and sharing, my
Yeah.
journey, I this is something that I really liked what you said, towards the end of that question, while you were giving the answer to that question, uh, that profession is just a part of your life. It is not life, and there are things that are beyond profession which one should not ignore. It could be taking out your pet for a walk, or it could be listening to music, which plays a pivotal role in probably stress or anxiety management. And reading, for that matter, is also very important, and reading not just about law but be going beyond law and reading books. It could be fictional, it could be other types that perhaps. And that is what I really liked about school days, because everything was so well structured in our schools. We had a timetable, we had a
100%.
sports period, we had a music period, we had music, so we were playing musical instruments, and at the same time, the same day, we would have a sport that we would look forward to. Then we would look forward to so many other activities, co-curricular, extracurricular. We would have morning prayers together, then we would study together, then there were projects and collages that we would do together. And this is something
Yeah.
that we really need to learn from these school days. And it was something really very basic. You don't have to be an expert or a pro to be able to
Yeah.
preach, or
100%.
I mean, if you can do it that in your school days, then why can't you do that now? And coming to my musical
Yeah.
journey, I think it all started during the first wave of COVID-19. A lot of creative things happened then. And so there was this musical instrument that I had. It's called PSR 550. It's a synthesizer, and it was always stocked in a cupboard. And I probably, the last time when I
Yes.
remember playing it before COVID was probably in class 10th or ninth, and that was when I actually bought this. And I took this out. I started playing randomly. I would look for notes and chords on YouTube, and that is how I would learn. And once I started playing, if not flawlessly but properly, then I started uploading videos just to motivate me that okay, fine, I can do something in life, creative as well. And that is how, and it became a habit. So the entire first wave went into that, because second wave led to virtual amicus, and first wave led to those synthesizer songs that I would compose and play, and I was subsequently.
I'm sure, yeah, Jay, I'm sure it did help you in coping with whatever was going around in the backdrop in terms of,
Absolutely.
people are falling ill, or, the death tolls and the kind of COVID cases. I think it gets too much for a fragile mind to take. And that's why we need these coping mechanisms, which can come in the form of musical instruments or books or any other kind of hobbies.
Absolutely. And I think on this note, I wish to share something. Yeah. So at Honorable Justice Rohington Nariman sir's farewell, there were notable councils who were present in the likes of Darais Kambata, Mr. Navro Sirvai, Mr. Dwarkadas, and they were all talking about how his encyclopedic knowledge of comparative religion was, and how his love for history, the love for the law, and the prodigious memory that everybody is aware of. But there was one key takeaway: his love for Western classical music, his love for the orchestra, his love for jazz
Yeah,
music. And that is, what was the most important thing in his life that he would look forward to after a long day's work. So I think,
100%.
when we have legal luminaries, we have distinguished jurists who are passionate about music, then I think it's high time even we have hobbies, and we look forward to those hobbies.
Yeah, I think we should. Yeah, absolutely. And whatever works. I mean, who will qualify or classify hobby, right? Whatever works for you. And I've been with the. I mean, when I was practicing in the Bombay High Court, I have sat and sort of drafted the pleadings, wherein the counsel or senior counsel was listening to Carnatic music while drafting. It certainly has an impact, which I think all of us should experience. Because we have to learn these coping mechanisms on a day-to-day basis. And as you just mentioned, history and books. When I urge to read, books, and I will always make a case to read books, is always beyond law. Law already we are managing. We have a day job. We do the law, but there are also other subjects which we can sort of explore, whatever may be our interest. It helps in an overall personality development, and we must not think that if we are a decade old in the profession our personality is already developed. No, there's a pursuit of lifelong learning, right? There's a pursuit of going ahead and being amidst engineers or lawyers or doctors or historians, and being able to learn from them. And that's why I feel diversification, or your constant learning or developing your personality. Like, for example, I have personal interest in biology and psychology, and that's why I pursue reading these books, how brain develops and how we can cope, mechanism. There's so much I've learned from books, and I think, as I said, it's the greatest asset. And that's one. And having said that, any hobby that works for you, I would strongly encourage. And just don't take yourself too seriously. It's okay. There is another sort of Omicron is like, upon us. And let's have our coping mechanisms in place, and let's just concentrate on our holistic sort of a development as a human being, and not just as a lawyer, right? So I think that's the urge that I mean, that's something that I would like to request everyone.
And I think, to add to that, I think one should strive for excellence and not for positions, that okay, I want to make it here, I want to be there, and I want this position. And excellence can only
Yeah,
come when these little things that you do in a very structured way, they go a long way. Because see, ultimately, law is 99% perspiration and 1% inspiration. So a lot of hard work goes into this, but what will keep you going is determined by how fit you remain in this journey, because it's a marathon, it's not a 100-meter
absolutely,
sprint.
absolutely.
So I think that is where hobbies play a pivotal role. And I don't know, somewhere I feel that there is a major problem here in our country, that most of the law firms don't offer a structured atmosphere. They don't employ more people. And the kind of work that the associates are made, they put into, and the tasks they put into, Herculeus tasks. I think somewhere because I have so many friends who staying in Dubai and in other parts of the country, other parts of the world, and they don't share similar problems that I see here in our country. I don't know, something about structuring or whatever it is, it has to be looked into, catered to, and we need to find tangible results to this.
Sure. No, I hear you, Jay, but I have another point to make here. When you're younger, I think if you put in like that amount of work, it's also good for you professionally, because I have done that, and it has also worked well. So my point, my plea here is, not to, sort of try to change the system, change yourself, know yourself more, and how you can improve, because system, of course, it's something that needs to be addressed, and maybe we can work a little slower speed. But what is in your control, can you change that, right? You understand you get only Sunday, okay? How do you spend your Sunday? right? How do you spend your first 15 minutes when you wake up? These smaller changes, these smaller things that you have control over. Can you quit caffeine if it's giving you palpitation? If you've recognized that, can you quit coffee? Right? So these are the smaller changes. So let's start working on ourselves first, and then, of course, we will together work towards the system. But let's first, I think, learn that's it's easier to change ourselves, I would say, than to go ahead and sort of, you know, then and automatically things will change if we can change ourselves. If imagine if you are a happier person, I'm just giving you a scenario. Happier person, you're going to a workplace where everybody is very sad, right? So you can spark that happiness, you can spark that joy. Can you do that? Right? Can you start that? Right? So it's about changing yourself. Can you bring that change? Can you smile a little more? Can you just not take your profession too seriously? Can you just listen to music, be in your own world, and be a happier person? And it will have a domino effect. I'm telling you this by experience. It will have a domino effect on your colleagues, on your bosses. You will enjoy working more. You will have better productivity. It'll have a domino effect. Start with yourself. That's my urge.
Wow, that words of wisdom coming there from Amicus. So thank you so much, ma'am, for taking out time. I think we've already taken a lot of time of yours, and
Thank you so much for having me.
I think, I feel so bad when I share this, but it took us 80 episodes to understand the value of mental health and well-being. I think we should have covered this in our first episode itself. How important it is to address these
It took me
anxiety.
10 years too. It took me almost 10 years to understand the importance. So it's okay. It's better late than never.
Better late than ever. I think
And I hope, yeah, I hope we can find more joy in our profession. I just hope so, and we don't lose out great minds midway because they are not able to, sort of cope with certain bumps.
exactly. So, to all the viewers who are watching, our email is mentioned on the channel. In case if you have any of the queries, feel free to write to us. We'll be more than happy to forward the same to our Amicus for today's session, Mrs. Rajni Singh. And feel free to reach out to us directly, indirectly. You can reach out to our Amicus as well. And thank you so much there, ma'am, for once again for taking out time
Thank you. Thank
for
you for having me.
addressing
Thank
for
you.
addressing on a very important issue, topic, subject, or whatever you call it. And we hope to see you soon again. Stay tuned. Next episode is on its way.
Absolutely.
Goodbye for now. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jay. Thank you.
Thank you.